Welcome to the Hidden City Podcast. I'm Grant.
And I'm Doug, and we're here to share some of the incredible stories and people from Oak Cliff that you might not know.
We're going to sit down with some of the visionaries, craftsmen, and business owners who have shaped Oak Cliff into what it is today.
Oak Cliff is on the south bank of the Trinity River, a few miles south of downtown Dallas. While technically it was part of Dallas, it was its own city for a long time, and it still has that independent spirit.
We'll dive into the history and the spirit of this place, exploring the different challenges and successes that defined it.
This is The Hidden City, a podcast about the people and the stories that make Oak Cliff extraordinary.
Well, welcome to this episode of the Hidden City Podcast. We are actually going to be taking a little summer hiatus from our normal programming. We're going to do a little summer reading club. So we've got a few books that we're excited to read this summer. Savannah's joining us on the pod. Doug's back at it. And y'all, what is up with summer reading? We all like reading, right?
I love to read. Yeah, I feel like we're always talking about what books are stacked up on y'all's desks.
And I feel like the guests also kind of like will drop different books throughout episodes and stuff. I know Jason's purchased a couple too.
Right.
Whenever someone's referencing one or whatever. So
we had a whole run last spring of like Claudia at Who's Books and Javi at Wild Detectives and then the Writer's Garret. Like we had a lot of different.
Oak Cliff and writing. There's a connection. It's important. And we enjoy it. It's good to get stuck in some stories.
Yeah.
It is. I do feel like so central to our podcast is telling stories. So there's some great stories that we are either discovering for the first time or have read before. And I think summertime for me is always like, it just reminds me of my childhood when I would read through books or be asked to read through books during the summer and come back to school having read some books. Did you do this? I feel like
we did.
Yeah,
we did for sure. And I think too, for people who are listening to this is their first episode. This is not a normal episode. Like we are usually interviewing people, kind of like telling these different stories through businesses and leaders here in Oak Cliff. But like Grant was saying, we're doing this for probably four-ish weeks, I'd say.
Yeah.
Taking a few of these episodes and just diving into some books. And so, but yeah, to answer your question, summer reading club program, Scholastic.
Wasn't there like a whole system of reading? I don't know, like awards or rewards that you got through the Dallas Public Library?
I just remember the library one. That's the... Okay. You guys were talking about like school ones or whatever.
Yeah, I never did the AR thing, but I did the public library, like you check in your book that you read and you get so many prizes at the end of the summer.
100%.
Like, totally did that.
They totally bribed us to read.
And it worked for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally. And you're an avid reader nowadays. Like,
I am,
you love to read.
I love to read.
AR for me, and I guess that was a school program.
Yeah, so technically I would have gone through that as well.
I don't know if they you were
making an imprint.
At this point,
they hadn't really started AR by the time you had gone through. No, it was like a program where you would pick books, and they all had a score, and you could. Your goal was to like get to a certain amount of points by the end of the summer, or like by the end of the year, and so like a Hank the Cowdog book would be like 4 points because it was pretty easy. Undervalued. Great book. Should have been higher. But if you picked up the Count of Monte Cristo, it's like 28 points. Right. But it's going to take you half the year.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like East Eden for me. That was a lot. But so they gamified it. They gamified reading for kids in school. Yeah. But I the summertime, I do think we would go to the public library. You would get your like kind of kickoff day. And there was like prizes at the end, and you would just kind of like mark them, right? Yeah. I feel like it was hours read or different.
It's like stickers on the chart. That was kind of the vibe.
You were kind of like marking how much, and then at the end of the year, in the summer, you would go get your prizes. Yeah. Way to go, Dallas Library.
Well, here on the Hidden City Podcast, we're just doing it for the love of the game. No prizes, no bribery here. But maybe if you read all 4 books, we'll find a way to get you some sort of
we'll
thing.
Get you a prize.
Yeah.
So, Savannah, what book are we reading today? This is our first book of the Summer Reading Club.
Yeah, so we are talking about John Steinbeck's Cannery Row.
Let's go.
So maybe not one that you're as familiar with. I feel like everybody reads Of Mice and Men or East of Eden or one of his other like larger novels. Love that. Kind of a cool cover. But Yeah,
you
we were talking about Cannery Row.
Copy.
I have a physical copy. I'm a physical copy book person.
Okay.
Ooh,
nice.
Interesting.
Mine,
okay.
yeah.
Our next episode, it's all audiobook for me.
That's funny.
I'm not an
I'm
audiobook
Kindle
hater.
reader now.
Oh, okay.
I used to be only physical books. Now the Kindle's
so
hooked me.
we have the whole gamut
We
of
do.
book consumption here.
Okay, how did this book come to the Hidden City Summer Reading Club?
Honestly, I feel like we were just talking about books and researching ideas, and I think Steinbeck is just
classic,
hard to pass over.
Classic.
So he's obviously such a well-known author.
Tell us about him.
So Steinbeck, born in California in 1902, died in 1968. So lived through the later half of the 60s, won a Nobel Prize in literature. And we all know him. I mean, he's one of the greatest American novelists. Right. But I found it interesting kind of researching him. He was not like immediately successful, which I always find this to be a cool thing when you learn about people and how they, I always say this is a funny example.
Or
I always think of the KFC guy who started KFC. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure he started KFC in his like 60s or something.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. And that's awesome.
Was like wildly successful. So anyways.
When I think of Colonel Sanders, though, I think of like the phenom he became in Japan.
Yes.
Do you guys know that story?
Yes.
No. Oh, yeah. It's like he's like got a whole second like career or life over there.
Seriously.
That's just
He's doing it big over there.
Yeah. It's crazy.
We're gonna have to do a whole episode.
Yeah,
on
that's
him.
that's a sad one.
Chicken episode.
But Steinbeck wrote his first. I think his first novel was called Cup of Gold.
Okay. Yeah, let's look at the notes. Cup of Gold.
It was pretty poorly received. I think he said, "I wish it had never been published," and then he went on to write a couple more books that also didn't do very well. And he later says, "Apparently, we are heading for the rocks. The light company is going to turn off the power in a few days." So this is Steinbeck.
Tortured poet.
Total tortured poet moment. And then, soon after that releases Tortilla Flat, which becomes extremely popular and surprised Steinbeck even, who said, this is like a second-rate book. I don't understand why people are causing a fuss about this book, because it's meant to be just like a relaxation book.
Interesting.
And then he goes on like the greatest run of novelists in history with Of Mice and Men in 1937, The Grapes of Wrath in 39, Cannery Row in 45, and then East of Eden, which we all three love that book, East of Eden,
is great.
In 1952. So kind of a little background on Steinbeck.
Steinbeck. That's awesome. So he was in California. I think of Grant, our colleague Dan Van Voris, always
100%.
loved Steinbeck.
Yeah.
And hearing, he's a historian out in California and is just kind of one of those people that's drawn to this American literature and author. But yeah, Steinbeck's, he's a superpower. He's like kind of one of the ones out of our country that's done some amazing work. So it's fun to jump into this thing.
Yeah.
He's an interesting writer too, because there's not a lot of heroes in his stories. I feel like he's kind of talking about ordinary life in a way that is, you really can get drawn into it, and the scenes, and we're going to talk about that in Cannery Row, but like a lot of the scenes are just normal day life, and it kind of feels at times like there's really nothing going on in this story. But he has a way of illustrating that that's pretty awesome. So
well, let's jump into Cannery Row. I did not read this book. I'm already failing in my summer reading club. You two did, so you guys are gonna drive a little bit. I recently moved and had a kid too.
Doug,
so
you've had a few things going on.
It's a lot of things going on. But so you guys drive this. Like, what? Tell us about this book. You finished it. It's not a big read. I mean, what is this? It can only be
200 pages.
200 pages.
Yeah.
It's kind of someone got to 111. It looks like.
I finished that book.
Okay.
It's definitely a book you can.
It's not a massive read
through.
It's no East of Eden.
Quickly.
Like I feel like that one took me forever.
Yes.
Not a slow read. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what the name Cannery Row means.
Yeah, what is
I think
this?
That's helpful for setting the scenes. Savannah,
sure.
what is Cannery Row?
So it's literally a row of tinned fish production factories.
Right.
So they're making cans.
Literally
for
a canning
tuna,
row,
right?
basically.
Yeah. So smelly, very industrial, like very blue collar, early 20th century.
And this is happening in Monterey, California, and this is a real place.
Yeah.
Which I've learned now after reading it. It's like you can go visit this place.
Right.
More touristy now. But I think Steinbeck, one of the interesting things biographically about him is he worked a lot of odd-end jobs, and so he was familiar with this place. It was just like a normal... And sardines were a bigger thing, I guess.
Right.
They were catching fish and cooking them and canning them there on Cannery Row. So kind of an interesting...
Monterey is the sardine capital of the world. So is this...
I did not know that before this book.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's a bold statement. But that's what this is about.
Right.
This area,
it's a setting,
this street,
right?
this place.
And I think, one of the interesting things about it is the Cannery Row is very driven by place and characters, and there's very little plot. It's like a loose kind of plot.
It's kind of like neighborhood, or is
right,
it?
Yeah,
like,
I think so. Like very character driven, very neighborhood, like kind of how all of the different character storylines kind of end up together and how they interact.
They're all tangled up with each other in some way, and it is very communal in that sense. But you're right. It's like you get halfway through the book and you're like, I feel like I'm just hearing little snippets of people's stories, and there doesn't really seem to be
like the town that Wendell Berry creates, like a little bit, where there's like stories just happening in
I think there's some similarities there for sure. It's almost like you're sitting on a porch and people are telling stories about things, rather than like
not a big through line.
It's not like an action adventure where you've got a intense villain or an intense like it's.
Or even a hero.
It's and it's all, the backdrop is really Cannery Row, which is kind of the place, like you said, that drives the story forward. So I like this opening line, and I'll just read from the book because I think it's the first sentence of the book. He says, let's see. Cannery Row in Monterey, California is a poem, a stink, a grating noise, a quality of light, a tone, a habit, a nostalgia, a dream. Cannery Row's the gathered and scattered, tin and iron and rust and splintered wood, chip pavement and weedy lots and junk heaps, sardine canneries of corrugated iron, honky-tonks, restaurants, and whorehouses, and little crowded groceries and laboratories and flop houses. So... I mean, that is
Steinbeck.
This is like
kind of stuff. Right. Okay.
So, what I feel like he's giving you in the first little bit is like, this is a backdrop, and the thing that he's already telling you is where those people live, that he's going to tell you about, and the people are really the main part of this whole story. They're interesting, kind of quirky people. Tell us one of your favorite characters, Savannah, because I know you read through this. Is there anybody in this story that sticks out to you?
If there is like kind of an anti-hero, it does feel like it's Mac and his like band of merry men a little bit, or kind of the like main focus of the...
Who are these people? Tell me. This is all new to me.
They're like kind of well-meaning, mischievous, feels like overgrown frat boys a little bit, but they're like, like that's kind of their vibe, but they're like shiftless, like off and on, homeless, like just kind of people in the neighborhood that everybody's like, oh, these guys, like, don't give them a loan, or kind of thing. But they do kind of, what plot there is kind of driven forward by these guys, like kind of wanting to do good. It almost feels like Mac, the leader of this group, is like kind of having almost a midlife crisis, like am I a good person? A little bit seems to be what he's asking, and in various and assorted ways he's trying to do something good.
Yes, I think that's a really good explanation of basically the whole story. It's like Mac and the boys, and they are trying to put on basically a party for Doc. And so Doc is the other kind of, I would say, central figure who's everybody kind of adores in their own way. He works at Western Biological, which is this like biological laboratory, I guess.
Like mad scientist.
So is Doc like the AI guy that we interviewed the animal?
Yes. Yes. A little bit, actually.
Doc would have been a Colossal. Right?
Yeah, he would have worked at Colossal for sure. No, it's a place where you have bugs and snakes and rats, and they perform experiments, or at least you could buy animals to, like, if you're
Seems
a laboratory.
To be like maybe a part-time veterinarian too.
Yeah.
Like kind of just. I don't know.
So these are like weird characters and people.
Absolutely.
Like, okay. Yeah.
It's
so does it just kind of pop through each different person, or how's the story? How's it being told?
Yeah. So you kind of get introduced, I would say almost chapter by chapter.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little vignette of these people. So, Doc is early on kind of described as going down and walking by the shoreline at night, and he's he's this generous person who seems to be very attentive to everyone around him, but also he's kind of curious. He's kind of like a little mysterious, I think, at least in the way I read it. But yeah, one of the other main characters is Lee Chong.
Yeah.
And I think the book kind of starts with him, if I recall, like in his grocery store. So tell us, Savannah, about Lee Chong.
So Lee is, and it does sound like there's maybe other general stores in Cannery Row, but Lee's is like the place.
Yeah.
So it's where everybody's going to get a pint after work. It's where you're going to get your food. It's where Doc's going to get like records, maybe. He seems to really care about music and like culture. Yeah. So it just seems to be like kind of the town square is at Lee's counter. Yeah,
Lee is he is the guy where you go if you need something, basically, for all these people. And he has a lot of people who owe him money, and he always finds a way to kind of like not give things away. Like he'll keep track of how much you owe him.
This is Lee?
Yeah. This is Lee, yeah.
So that
to a point. And then there's like a couple scenarios where like he softens actually.
Yeah.
But he's.
That reminds me of the old billboard on Jefferson. There's like right where the Texas Theater was. There's a really like black and white photo of a billboard that says, "I owe my closest friends money," or so. Oh, no, my closest friends owe me money. Is this Lee? Is this like, can he be that, or is he more of just like, hey, I'm the bank?
That's interesting.
It's a little in between of those two things almost, because like he realizes there's times when people can't pay.
Yeah.
And so he'll give you like a line of credit basically, but then there's other times when he's like vehemently like, no, get out of the shop.
Right.
Like I
can't do business.
I can't do this anymore. We're like Mac and the Boys.
Right.
Is a good example.
Okay.
They find the Flop House is available, and this is a house that's on Cannery Row. Or it's like a building on Cannery Row that is vacant.
Lee's come into possession of.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so they discover that Lee possesses it. They and again, Mac and the Boys are kind of the like older frat dudes who like are kind of bums.
Kind
of
good old boy
like,
bums.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like freeloaders a little bit. Yeah. And so he, Mac wants to live in this house, and Lee's like, well, I know he's not going to pay me.
Right.
But also I know that, like, if I don't let him, they might, like...
take possession of it anyways.
Yeah,
right.
Or damage it or, like, burn it down or something. So there's this whole back and forth where Lee kind of has to let him have this house.
Okay.
He and the boys, but also, he kind of gets coerced into it, too.
Right.
So there's little moments like that. But Lee's creative. She's like charitable, but he's not going to give you a bunch of things. He's kind of like, he's going to be generous in quiet ways, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. So, okay. So there's kind of like all these different characters. Like, do you see, like, is there Oak Cliff connections in some of this when you're looking at this? You're like, hey, these communities, not that we're a fishery or what is it, cannery.
Cannery, yeah.
I mean, the only place you can get sardines around here is probably at Bodega.
Yeah, shout out La Bodega.
She's got a whole bunch of sardines on the wall. But is there anything that, like, when you were going through this, you're like, oh, this is like community, this is Oak Cliff, this is I'm making these connections to this neighborhood in some way, or is it just like, hey, this is a good story?
I think, and this is true throughout most of Steinbeck's work, but there's like a respect and almost like a sanctity of the everyday normal that is kind of felt, and that's part of why like this is character driven and place driven, and there's a lot of like, hey, these people normal people, and they're kind of quirky and they're not necessarily aspirational, and that's part of the charm and part of the I relate that a lot to like every neighborhood has its Mac and the Boys, or your Lee Chong. So I don't know, what did you think?
I completely agree. I think that's what Steinbeck's trying to get his readers to do, and it's to see like
you got the bank person, you've got the
you may not think about, to draw it to Oak Cliff, you may not think of Davis Street as like this, but
Cannery Row.
But Steinbeck's kind of like, but you have a Cannery Row in your neighborhood probably, and you've got the coffee maker, and you've got the guy who's behind the bar at Nova. It's like you've got all these like characters.
You've got your neighborhood characters.
Yeah, and so I think there's you're right. I think he's like trying to get us to pause and like think about, you don't have to have a lot of activity in the story. Like, let's focus on the people, and like and it's kind of cool because I think he brings some dignity to like Mac and the boys, who like would be never a character in a story, but they get to be kind of some of the main characters in the story. So that's I don't know if that's helpful.
No, I love the connection of Cannery Row to Davis Street, where it's like, hey, there's a lot of placemaking and people, and you have the Shannon Neffendorfs, and then also the do-it-yourself dog wash. Like it's just crazy different people. Even ABC Party, that's on Davis too. You keep going down that way, and that's one of those streets that you could totally see a Texas Steinbeck writing a story on. But that's awesome.
I think the other part of that is that nobody in Cannery Row lives alone or can live alone. Like, it's all very interconnected. Everybody's kind of dependent on each other.
Man, I was thinking about that this morning. Like I said, moved into a new house, and I was like thinking, and we drove by Elmwood Farm too, and I was just like, man, back in the day, people, like, neighbors relied on neighbors more. It feels like right now we're door dashing groceries or whatever, or Instacarting groceries, and it's like someone would grow something in their backyard, share what they had extra, hope that a neighbor would also maybe share something else too, or maybe like, hey, this is the person who has honey, like they're harvesting honey in the neighborhood, and it's like you kind of relied on
you're more interconnected.
You relied on people more, I think. So yeah, that was a random thought that came in there.
That's good.
But it was just like how, like, we built a front porch around our house, and we've been sitting out there more, and so even that has made us very connected, to good, bad, and ugly. But it's just like you're out there, and you're like talking to people and seeing people, and there's like a connectedness that is exciting, but also like feels like a long time ago. Like, do people even do that anymore?
Yeah,
right.
I think it's really hard to do it anymore. Because like
no
you said,
food. No one's
no one has connection to those sorts of things. But also, like, we have Amazon, and we have
we're not on our front. We don't have front porches or that kind of thing.
You don't go sit outside. You don't have to go to the same grocery store every time. In Cannery Row, like, you had Lee Chong's spot. That's where you went.
You saw people there.
So I think it's
Target.
Now we have a Target,
and
there's
a couple
people there.
I do see people at Target. Yeah,
that's true.
That's our lease.
That's our new lease. I think, kind of touching on what you're saying, Doug. There's a moment in the story that really, what plot there is, it doesn't really push the plot forward. But there's a chapter, and I think there's like it's like scarlet fever, or there's some kind of like sickness breaking out around the community, right? Yeah. And Doc is not a medical doctor, but it's kind of like the de facto.
His name's Doc.
Yeah, but he's Doc.
Everyone mistakes him for one.
Everyone
basically
takes him. Yeah, and there's at one point that Dora, another central character who owns a brothel, comes in and is like, "How can I help?" And Doc says, like, "We need nurses," and she sends her girls to go be nurses throughout the community. And it's such a like.
It's an awesome part of the story.
What in the world is it? It's just an interesting like. wow,
there's a need.
I don't know. There's a need, and these people come and meet it, and there's no revulsion to that. There's no I don't know.
They kind of it's like kind of a I'm going to do my best because I'm here sort of situation where, again, like you said, the doc is a marine biologist. Right. He's not a trained physician.
Doctor. Yes, yeah.
But they think he is, and so he starts and goes doing house visits and like taking blood, checking on kids and stuff. Yeah. And then when like things get really serious, he calls an actual doctor.
Right. That's interesting. That reminds me, Jeremy McCaslin told me the story once, but out in Marfa, he was talking to someone who lived there for a few years, and they went into the town knowing that they wanted to be connected, build something, do something. And it wasn't necessarily like, hey, just go do a coffee shop or something. It was like coffee shops are awesome. I want more coffee. But it was like they started to get to know the people, and they started asking, well, what does the neighborhood need? And they were like, well, the washing machine place broke down and it's been out for a year. Like we really need that. And so they started like a washing machine business that all the people in Marfa started going to. And then they like made it also an ice cream parlor. And like they kind of like it just was like, hey, there's needs in the neighborhood if you slow down and listen to it a little bit. And that's what I heard in that conversation a little bit there too, is like, man, what a different attitude going into a place like downtown Elmwood or Elmwood in general. And it's just like, well, what does this place need? Versus like, I'm going to put our car wash here or whatever. Like, you start to kind of listen and hear some of those things. I think that's, just reminded of that with that doc little tidbit.
Yeah.
I love this line in the story. And I'll read this one too, because it's kind of crazy, but this is, I think, part of what Steinbeck's going for. He says, and this is talking about the Cannery Row inhabitants, and he says the inhabitants are whores, pimps, gamblers, and sons of bitches. But then he, in the next line, says, and if you look at it through a different peephole, they're saints and angels and martyrs and holy men. And so it's like this awesome dichotomy of like, at the very beginning of the story, he's telling you, here's what these people are. Yeah. But I'm going to show you how I think they might look like this too. And he's again bringing that, like, he's raising ordinary life to a higher standard. Yeah. Which is I love it because it's he's giving attention to a community, and I love that line though.
Tell me, I feel like so maybe like 7-8 years ago, I've had a copy of Cannery Row at my house. I tried picking it up, read it for a little bit, and put it down. Just didn't get into it. It was kind of, we were talking earlier about Ernest Hemingway and how you kind of feel like sometimes it takes you a second to get into Hemingway. It definitely took me a second to get into Cannery Row, so much so that it took me now 8 years.
Sure.
But don't let that scare you off. I'm sure it's a great book and everyone should read it. But frogs. There's like on the cover that I had, there's a ton of frogs everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's on this cover, but I remember seeing it was like the frog book.
The frog scene's great.
What is the frog scene? What?
It's kind of the comedic relief.
It is
in the story. Yeah. So Mac and the boys are trying to get money, and they basically like cajole like Doc into hiring them to go get some frogs for some research. Okay. Right.
Basically, Doc has basically hired them to go get frogs,
catch a bunch of frogs
for his Western biological, so that they can make enough money to put them on a party. Is kind of the idea. So it's kind of a funny.
Yeah. So, anyways, they like kind of stumble. You know, it's like a whole comedy of errors. Their car breaks down. The car that they're like borrowing breaks down, and they end up walking, and then they end up camping by this pond. And the landowner comes out, and they kind of sweet talk him into, they kind of sell him on the idea that like he really needs some frog control, and they're going to help him out, right? And remove all of these frogs. And then just in classic Steinbeck, he's a poet, and so he just like, it's hilarious, but also kind of a beautiful section of the book, I think, where he's like writing about, it kind of turns it into like a frogs against men, and like cosmically there's a battle, and
he's like, for the millennia that men and frogs have been together, it is conceivable that one would hunt and the other would be hunted, or something like that. And he's like, these rules of the game kind of emerged over the last 1,000 years of how a human would go about getting a frog. And he even says at one point, like, and the frog can expect the rules to work this way.
Right.
But when Mac and the boys show up, like,
they're just barbarians.
They're barbarians. They don't follow the rules.
There's no rules.
Okay.
And so it's just a great section because it is very poetic and fun.
And comedic.
Yeah, it's like all of that. Yeah.
Okay.
You could almost just go read that section and enjoy it. But I would highly recommend it to anybody. It is a funny story. It's a little different than your normal read.
It's a good intro to Steinbeck, I would say, too.
I love that it's about a place.
Yeah.
Like that it's like, two things when I think about Oak Cliff, or just like stories in general like this. I love that there's like some normalcy to it, where it's like, hey, this isn't this crazy story or plot, villain, hero kind of thing. And again, that reminds me of like the little, I forget the town that Wendell Berry's created all these stories out of, but it's kind of like a place. I think that's pretty awesome. Like focusing on a place. So I'm gonna try it again, y'all. I'm gonna pick it back up. I'm gonna go for it.
Go read it. The ending's great. And
ending's fun. Yeah.
What? I can't leave me with that.
So you gotta go finish that book, Doug.
All right, y'all. So where should somebody get this? I mean, we have Oak Cliff probably has like the most independent bookstores of any neighborhood. You know, Whose Books, all those. Yeah. But like, let's say this episode inspired you to do a little summer reading. Where should I get this, Savannah?
So you can find this is an older copy. If you want to go dig at Lucky Dog Bookstore, they have an amazing back catalog.
Good choice.
But if they don't have it in store, you can go visit our friends Claudia and John at Whose Books, or Javi at Wild Detectives. And if they don't have it in store, they'll order it for you, and you can support local instead of a big corporation, right? It's a neighborhood book. Support your neighborhood bookstore.
There you go.
It's a good way to look at it. That's perfect. I think everybody should go pick up a copy, and yes, go shop at your local bookstore. And we'll be back soon with another episode of the Summer Reading Club.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Hidden City. We hope you discovered something about Oak Cliff that you didn't know. If you enjoyed the show, I hope you subscribe to it on YouTube, and then follow us on any of the podcasting platforms. Also, if you enjoyed it, please share with a friend, and thanks so much for tuning in.